So I'm sitting here, I've got my notes, I've got my Iron Man laundry basket, I've got the new beautiful view from the new apartment, 18 stories up, and feeling pretty good. So today I want to investigate the question, what is natural with regards to bodybuilding, physique competitions? What does it mean to be a natural athlete? Now, keep in mind, this is opinion. This is not fact. This is just what I believe. And today I'm going to take you on a journey through a few levels about what some people consider to be natural or unnatural. So we'll start on the most harmless of substances. So let's say you're a kid, you're a young little kid, you're a little squealing baby, you just popped out of the womb and you get your vaccine. Actually, I think you get them later. I don't know. I'm not a father yet, but you get your vaccine. Are you now unnatural? It's a good question. I mean, vaccines would not have been available several hundred years ago, and they can potentially give an advantage. If one person gets a disease and the other person avoids it because they're vaccinated, is that a performance advantage? Well, I guess, potentially. Now, do I personally believe anyone who has had a vaccine is unnatural? No. But there is a grain of truth. There is a sliver of an argument that some people might make for vaccines being unnatural. What about creatine? Creatine is naturally occurring. It's found in a lot of types of meat, fish, especially red meat, and you can get a full maximal dose just from eating whole natural foods. However, for a lot of people, especially if you don't like meat or you're vegetarian, it's basically going to be impossible to get a full maximal dose. And you could argue, again, that supplementing with this white suspicious powder that looks a bit like something else could be unnatural. Now, do I think this is unnatural? No, not really. But again, there could be an argument that supplementing with this supplement could be unnatural. What about coffee, caffeine? Again, you can, wander into the woods as a caveman and find some interesting beans that make you really happy when you eat them, but it's not going to be as fast, it's not going to be as powerful, it's not going to absorb as quickly, simply because there's a lot of fiber that comes with the bean. When you grind up the bean and you put it in hot water, it's going to absorb much more quickly and be much more potent. And this is a performance-enhancing substance. In fact, caffeine is one of the most powerful substances that you can take to improve your performance in the short term. If you consider caffeine to be unnatural, well, I'm probably one of the most unnatural people on the planet because I consume a ton of it. And you could make this argument for just about any supplement. Even protein powder, it absorbs more quickly, it's more convenient, you don't have to go hunting, you don't have to grab your spear and go try to fight a mammoth or a tiger or something. You can just grab your scooper. I mean, it might be at the bottom of the container. That's about as far as you're going to have to hunt. You're going to have to dig at the bottom and try to get the scoop, but once you get the scoop, it's super convenient to get your protein in. That is unnatural, of course. Protein powder, nothing to do with hunting at all. In fact, someone told me that I'm unnatural because I had protein powder. And again, there's a grain of truth. It sort of makes sense. You could make the argument. I think it's a stupid argument, and I don't agree with it. And I think protein powder doesn't really cross the line to where you're unnatural. But they have a very small point. A stupid point, but a point. What about something like machines in the gym? I mean, 100 years ago, there were very few machines. It was basically the barbell, some dumbbells, maybe a few other strongman type implements, but nothing really advanced. You had no techno gym, no hammer strength, and thus, you can get far more development by using some of these machines. Some of them are crap, but most of them are pretty decent, and these can actually improve your physique. Is it unnatural to sit in a hammer strength lat pull down and get some big wings? I mean, maybe. Again, there's a glimmer of truth in that statement. Even something like a squat. There used to be no squat racks. They used to have to do what's called a Steinborn squat. So they would prop the barbell up on its side. They would have to sort of lean into it, twist their obliques, rip the bar up using their spine violently. Okay, don't actually do that, but you can't use as much weight because you simply cannot overload the legs to the same amount that you can the spine and the obliques. So, is anyone who uses a power rack unnatural? I mean, I personally think no. Just because you use some kind of equipment doesn't make you unnatural. It's an advantage, but it isn't necessarily unnatural. And the same goes with most supplements as well. They are derived from food, and therefore, I think they're fair game. Now, what about medicines? So if you take, Advil, Tylenol, some other basic medicines, cough medicine, is that unnatural? Well, again, same sort of thing. Everyone sort of takes them. They're very prolific. They're not really frowned upon. They're just part of modern life. So even though it is a big advantage compared to cavemen and cave women too, I don't want to be sexist, but they are a big advantage, but I wouldn't say they're unnatural either. All right, now let's go into what is more of a gray area, testosterone. Now, testosterone is one of the most widely used and abused steroids. And I wouldn't say, this is tricky because this is far more opinion than anything else. If you are taking a TRT dose of testosterone, are you natural or are you unnatural? Well, let's look at both sides because it is a sort of a complicated and contentious issue. So let's say you're taking enough testosterone to put you in the normal range. Now, the normal range for testosterone is a pretty big one. It's about 276 to 1070 nanograms per deciliter. And that is obviously a huge range. It's about 4 times from the bottom to the top. Also keep in mind that 10,070, that's not normal. If you're above 1,000, that is super high. I would say less than one man in 1,000 is going to have over 1,000. It's just super high. Most men are going to be 400, 500, 600, maybe 800. Even 800, if I saw that on a blood test, blood report, I would say, wow, that's really good. That's certainly above average. So if you're taking TRT and you're targeting, 1,070 or 1,069 or 1,068, that is going to be technically natural because you're in the natural range, but that's one person in 10,000 or something that you're trying to replicate. And there's no real point in trying to do TRT and aim for like a 300. No one's going to do that. They're all going to aim for the upper range, and they're all going to say, look, I'm in range, I'm natural. Well, the range is so big that the higher ends of it are going to be so rare that it could be classified as unnatural. Furthermore, male hormones do fluctuate at least a little bit. Daily, usually it's higher in the morning and a little bit lower in the evening, but also weekly. I mean, if you have a night of sleep that's not that good, your testosterone is going to be lower, especially if it happens 2 or 3 nights in a row. If you're stressed out, if you're training a lot, your cortisol is going to be higher, and thus your testosterone, which has the same precursors, is going to be lower. Thus, if you're stressed out, if you're training a ton, your testosterone is not going to be 1,000. It's going to be 400 or 500 or 300. And this fluctuation is going to get you diminishing returns. It's going to get you less results. Whereas if you're injecting, even if it's technically within the natural range, it's going to be constant, more or less. It might go down during the week just because it has a half-life, but if you do it right, it's going to be fairly constant. And this is why those who maintain a year-round, pretty shredded physique, especially if they're a little bit older, they are often assumed to be on testosterone replacement therapy, simply because those natural fluctuations for a natural man is going to get you worse results, and you're going to have a more softer, natural-looking appearance. So personally, I think that if you are on TRT, you are not natural, and you should disclose that if people say you are natural or if you are claiming to be natural, because in reality, you're not. You can claim to be, you can try to justify it, but in my opinion, you are not natural. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. If you disagree, feel free to let me know. Other people, they say just because they're on less than what the pro bodybuilders use, they are natural. So they might be taking more than a TRT dose, maybe triple, quadruple what a TRT dose would be, and they claim to be natural simply because it is less than what other people use. or because they are not using compounds that the quote-unquote pros are using. So just because they are below other people, they claim to be natural because they're below a gram per week. Now, obviously, I don't think this is natural, and I don't think there is really any kind of justification for this. Anyone who claims this is really grasping at straws, and it's almost impossible to justify this, in my opinion. One big factor is time. So some natural bodybuilding federations, they actually say if you've been clean for 7 years, or 5 years, or 10 years, or 1 year, or however many years or months even, that they say is okay, you are now natural. So if you took testosterone or SARMs or whatever 7 years ago, and you were cold turkey for so long, well, now you are natural again. Now, because of satellite cells in the muscle, this actually, I don't believe is true. However, in my opinion, once you inject once for any kind of significant amount of time, I guess if you do it for 1 day, I don't know, it's such a fine line, you know what I mean? I think it's better just to say, if you inject once, you know what you're doing, you take that responsibility, and you are no longer natural. So if you're in the gym bathroom and some guy passes you the needle and you stick it right in your bum, I think from that point, you're not natural anymore. No matter what, even if it's 7 years, 10 years, even if it doesn't really have a measurable impact on your physique, at least for me, I would say that is not natural. Some people might disagree with me. I completely understand your point of view, but for me, I draw a pretty hard line. Once you do it, you're done. It's fine, it's not an evil thing, but you're no longer natural. Also keep in mind that just because you pass a drug test doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. You could have been off for a week, you could have used masking agents, you could have used someone else's pee. There are tons of ways to get around drug tests. Obviously, I have no personal experience with that, simply because I've never been drug tested. I've also never used drugs, so it hasn't been an issue at all. I've never competed in powerlifting or bodybuilding, so I've never been tested. But I've also never used, so it's like not a big issue either way. But I hear this all the time. Oh, this guy competes in tested competitions. That just means that they have to be a little bit more stringent and responsible with their usage leading up to the competition. It doesn't actually mean that they were clean. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, we don't know. And when someone asks me, Geoff, is this guy natural? I almost never say 100% yes or no. Yes, there are some circumstances where I can say for sure yes, but there are very few circumstances where I can say for sure no, simply because someone can take them and still look like crap. So that is my thoughts on the matter, what is natural. Let me know what you guys think, drop a comment below. I think it's a sort of interesting topic. Have a good day, stay safe wherever you are, and I will see you next time.
Peace!